Today, we're going to talk about App Builder. And App Builder is a newer product from Infrastics around all of our developer tools. You know, Infrastics has been in business now going on 30 plus years. Many of you have used our products for many, many years. Many of you are new. So this is a newer product. So for the folks that are new, kind of like, hey, cool. For the folks that have been around a while, I'll be like, wow, that's actually pretty innovative and neat. I'm glad you guys are moving in this direction. So my name is Jason. I'm a senior VP at Infrastics of our developer tools. So we're a small company. We're about 250 people, I guess. And so I'm the senior VP, but I do all the cool stuff with developer tools. I get to play product manager, engineering manager. I get to do webinars, demos, travel the world before COVID, and really reach out and talk to customers about what we should be building. My email is jasonb@infrastics.com. And with me today is Luke. Luke is our regional manager of Australasia. He's based in New Zealand. And if you have any questions, we actually have folks in the Australasia region and in Japan and in India. So we have the whole region covered essentially, and we have offices everywhere. So no matter where you're at or where your coworkers are at, you know, we have people in a time zone friendly access for you. And then of course, if you work for like one of these big multinationals and you have offices in London, we're based in London as well. Japan, India, we have an office in Sofia, Bulgaria, Montevideo, South America, and then New Jersey in the United States. So we've got you covered pretty much no matter where you're at. Our emails are here. Please email us if you have any questions or need follow-up after the webinar. So today's agenda, we're going to go do an overview of the App Builder. Since this is the first webinar we're really targeting for your region and your time zone friendly webinar where you don't have to watch a recording or something like that, I'm going to give a general overview of the product. I'm going to show you a little bit of the design to code aspect of it, which is where you can get your Adobe XD or your Sketch files into code. And then we'll just wrap it up. A little housekeeping. We have the chat line going. George Abraham is online today. He is the product manager and senior UX architect at Infrastics. He's been with all of our UX products since their inception. So he's an expert. He knows everything. And so if you have any questions about any of our UX products or developer tools, go to the chat or to the Q&A. Tomorrow, you'll get an email from our marketing department with the slides and a recording link of the webinar. All right. So like I said, this is the first in an ongoing series. We're going to do webinars every 2 weeks. The next one's March 31st. We're going to talk about Angular apps and how you can build them really fast with our Ignite UI product. Our Ignite UI product is related to App Builder as well. So I'm going to talk about that today. But the next webinar, I'm going to show you things like, you know, using the CLI in Angular, using the Ignite UI CLI, using our schematic templates, and just like basically being able to create apps really fast, like by hand, right? So you don't have to code everything manually, but you're still using CLIs to do it. App Builder all but eliminates the need to do that. But the reason you need to know about Ignite UI in general is because if you already have an Angular app, or let's say you already have a Blazor app or a React app, and you need to add our product into it, these are the things you would need to know. So we've got 2 webinars coming up, the 31st and then the 14th. We're going to focus on Blazor. Blazor is hot. Everyone wants to know about Blazor. What's going on with Blazor? We're going to talk about Blazor data grids, Blazor data charts, and just how cool they are and kind of the neat stuff that you can do with those controls. So let's talk about the App Builder. The whole point of App Builder is to design and build real apps blazing fast. So if you think about the old days where you had tools that when you're building desktop applications, you could drag and drop and easily lay out a screen and then hit run and it would kind of go. You don't have that in the web. You know, the last product that did that from Microsoft and really anything reasonable for business applications was ASP.NET. And that's legacy old. For whatever reason, Microsoft just said, we don't really care about the UI designers anymore. We just care about code, and we're gonna focus on CSS tools and like coding tools with IntelliSense. Well, App Builder to the rescue. It's a cloud-based low-code WYSIWYG. It helps digital product teams, which is you. Everyone on the call is on a digital product team. You're either a developer, a UX guy, a product manager. The goal is to help you build these apps faster than before. And really, when you look at what App Builder brings to the table, sorry, my cat's kind of in the way here. When you look at what App Builder brings to the table, it's about making it fun and enjoyable, again, to build screens and build applications. That's what we want you to do. We don't want someone coming from the desktop dreading going to the web. And that's what happens today. You're like, I can't go to the web. I don't want to learn CSS. I don't know web layout. I don't know how to make things responsive. Well, this is where the App Builder shines. So we're going to continue to deliver this type of experience. So your teams need to be more productive. And Gartner tells us through all their research that 60% of the app dev time of any application is spent on the user interface. And actually, in some apps, that goes way higher. So the problem is that's where most bugs are too. So you have UX bugs, just silly bugs, and things that could be avoided if you had tooling versus trying to hand code everything and then imagining in your head where this is going to get laid out, or having a job opening for a CSS expert for 6 months or a year or 18 months until it's well past the time you need it. And really, that's the whole thing. Web layout is complex. There's no WYSIWYG tools. We're trying to help there. And so you'll see I've got some logos here. I've got Adobe XD, Sketch, and Figma. And then over here, I've got Angular, Blazor, React, and Web Components. The idea is this tool is built on a design system. So the design system is something that we ship in the form of UI kits and components. And so if you're using a design tool, you're going to get all of the design system assets. And that means like a grid, a list, a button, 60, 80 different UI controls. And you can use those in Sketch, Figma, or XD. Then in the App Builder, our toolbox is just filled with these things that are representative of the components that are in the design system. Now, when you drag and drop things, we're building this common application model. And when you click generate code, we say, hey, what kind of code do you want? Oh, you want Angular? Well, we've got all these Angular components in the design system. We're going to generate production ready code for anything that's on that design surface. So that's really the idea behind why App Builder is so powerful, is because you can build an application all by yourself, just with our toolbox. You can involve your design team and they can use the tool they love, Adobe XD or Sketch, soon to be Figma. We're not shipping that one just yet. And then when you generate code, you don't really care about where it's ending up based on your design. You're just making your application look beautiful. And that's really the power of what we're trying to do. And so why does this matter to you? The reason is, and again, more research by Forrester, Gartner, these big analysts, 40% of app dev will be done using low-code tools like this by 2025. So if you're not using it yet, you will be using it. And in fact, Gartner says it's 60%. So they say it's even going to be higher. And there's all kinds of things coming at you that are low-code, no-code. This is a low-code tool that is developer team friendly. So some low-code tools are trying to eliminate developer jobs. Like, hey, use our tool. You don't need all those developers. This is just helping you do your job faster and better. That's the goal of this product. So like I have in the last bullet, everything that's designed is backed by the design system, real UI controls, and it does result in production ready code. So that's the end of the slides. I'm going to minimize this guy. And what we're going to do is walk through the app builder. And I'm going to start right at the Infrastics homepage. So you know what to do. Everything I'm showing you here, you can do right at home. So let's go to design and development. I am going to click App Builder. It's the first item on the menu. If you are a customer, App Builder is included in Infrastics Ultimate. It's included in Infrastics Professional. It's included in Ignite UI, and it's included in Indigo.Design. So this tool is included in every product, every bundle we ship, except our single SKUs of like Windows Forms and WPF or Angular, whatever. So if you own any one of those bundles, which is like 95% of our customers, you have this, you have access to this. So you don't have to pay extra. So here I am at the App Builder page, and there's a bunch of information on this page you should read, but I'm just going to go ahead and click sign in. And this will now take me right into the App Builder. First, let me sign out. I'm going to sign out and I end up at the screen. I just wanted you to see you can log in with Google, Microsoft, or Apple IDs or your Infrastics ID. I'll use my Infrastics ID. I use my Microsoft one too. Sometimes it asks me for that code, so I'm going to avoid it tonight. So you can see that I'm sort of at this workbench experience where I've got all the recent applications that I've been working on. On the left-hand side, I've also got just recents. I got my deleted apps. I can restore things maybe I accidentally deleted. And then I have all my workspaces. Workspaces are these areas where you're working with your team. So for example, these are my personal projects. When I jump in, if I go to the App Builder, this is the App Builder workspace. You can see it has 23 members, everyone on the team that works on App Builder every single day. And this is where we have security boundaries and design asset boundaries. So when we go into the app and I show you assets, they are workspace encapsulated. So any one of these applications in this workspace will share design assets, and any person in the workspace has access to these applications. If I go to another workspace, there's a lot less going on here. This only has 3 people. My Excel2JSON has a handful of people. My Korea demo has a couple people, George and I. And so that's really where you're going to say, hey, we're working on a new project. It's called XYZ. Let's create the XYZ workspace. Let's build let's start the new app there. And then we can just add whoever we want and they can work with it, with us on it. What I'm going to do though is click the new app button. In the new app dialog, you've got a few options here. The first thing we'll look at is some sample apps. So what we've done is we've built some beautiful sample applications, use them as learning examples, copy them, add your own data, do whatever you want. But the goal here is to really show you what you can do with the tool. We also have some default empty layouts like blank, header nav, left nav, etc. And then import designs, which is where you could drag and drop your sketch files, get your assets for Adobe XD, etc. I'll talk about that a little bit later. First thing I'm going to do is go to sample apps and I'm going to click try sample on this team collaboration guide. So now it creates an instance of that for me. That's in my workspace. And now I'm into the app builder. So a quick tour of what you get here. This is a single page application tool. So it's building Angular single page apps, Blazor single page apps. That's what they're called. React, web component, it doesn't really matter. The way single page apps work is you have master views and child views. So in this case, we have a master view. The master view has a couple components that are going to be on every page. And then we have this thing called a views container, and those are my child views. So my child views are automatically going to go into that views container, and you can arrange and design this however you want. This happens to be how this application is designed. My second tab on the left is the toolbox. There's 2 ways to get to the toolbox. The first way is just by clicking the tab, scrolling, finding something, and then like my date picker, I can just drag it onto the form. This is a column layout. So it showed up here at the bottom because I already had components in there. And so it's like a drag and drop tool. The second way to do this is hit Control E and you get this quick shortcut. And here I can do a search. So for example, I want to add a data grid. So bam, a data grid shows up and then I can do some design on it. Let's hit Control Z and get rid of that data grid because we really don't want that anymore. And let's get rid of our date picker like so. The next tab is your data binding. So you can pull in data. We're in this in-between state between this webinar and tomorrow sometime because we're actually improving your options for data binding. Oh, look at that, George. I'm totally wrong. It just was not here 10 minutes ago, I swear. We just added the ability to do open API and Swagger directly into the app builder. So up until today, you could have a URL with a cloud-based JSON file. You could upload JSON data, but now we have Swagger support. So this is amazing. And I'm going to demo that since it's there, because I didn't know that it was there. I swear it wasn't. But anyway, full data support and data binding, theme support. So we ship the product with 3 base themes: Bootstrap, Material, and Fluent. So if I select a new theme, the entire application changes. So you can see it's as easy as just selecting the theme. I mean, this is how easy it is to do this. You know, no joke here. Then if I want to create a new theme, let's say we want to do something based off Fluent new, and I'm going to make it Fluent, and I don't like the Fluent colors, so I'm going to change them to a little bit something different. And this will just give me, you know, a different look and feel, and I can basically change whatever I want here. And when I save this, and anything that you do here anything custom will actually show up in this custom theme viewer. So you can see it shows up at the bottom, but I will do something a little bit better, get out of those themes and do something like this, which is much nicer. And then finally, assets, which I showed you or talked about earlier. These are digital assets that are coming from the applications that are in my workspace. So they'll change based on your workspace. And where they come to be important is that when you're looking at something like an avatar, you can see here, I can do a URL or pick from the assets. So let's say I don't like that guy. I like this woman better. And now she is there. So we're giving you this, you know, just like you'd expect in Visual Studio. Here's my controls. Here's my properties. This is how it all works and gets pulled together. So if I go back here and I click this button here and I add a new child view. So here's child view, and I'll just tie together a couple of things I just showed you. So I'm going to add a new grid. I'm going to set this grid to 100% on the width, and I'm going to set this grid to 100% on the height. So there's my data grid. I've got some data source options here. I'll go to data source 1, table 1. I know I added this earlier. It's actually an OData feed coming from the cloud. So there is this OData coming from the cloud. If I go back to financial data and I go to my fin table, this is something coming from the cloud as well. It is, you know, I think it's 2,500 rows or 5,000 rows of financial data. But that kind of shows you that I've got some screens here. And I can kind of do whatever I want with them. But the thing to note is to get to these screens, you have to add a little bit of routing. So it's as easy as selecting the button and doing a navigation option here on your interaction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy, add a new interaction. I'm going to navigate to pick a view, and let's go over to child view. So now this is kind of exactly how I want. So you'll notice in the upper right, the preview button. So let's just do that for now. So this is my application preview as it would look in the browser. So if I click my buttons, you can see that everything here is happening just like I expect. So I've got a screen, a master page. I've got 3 child pages, and they're all navigating correctly. You'll notice this, the code view switch, which is really nice. So this is the code that gets generated. This is all like high-end code, production ready. All the hardcore guys online will want to inspect it themselves and say, I don't believe in code generators. Trust me, this stuff is no joke. If I go to child view here, this is my grid. We actually generated all the columns with all the properties. For the TypeScript, we actually created a data service. So it's actually doing everything appropriately like you would expect, which is really slick. So now what I can do is click the edit view. And in fact, actually, I could select Blazor or Angular. If I go back to preview, let me select Blazor. So the difference here is this now is a Razor page with Razor code. So that's how easy it is. We don't care. This is a common application model. As we add code generated outputs, they just show up and they just work. So what I'm going to do is select Angular. Blazor for us today is in beta. It's going to ship in a few weeks, in a month, something like that. It's been in beta now for about 3 or 4 months, the code generation piece. So we just want to make sure it's perfect. But I'm going to go back to edit, and you have a couple options to get your code. download a zip or publish to GitHub. And actually, before I do this, well, team collaboration 1, let me close this, cancel this, and I'm going to change the name of this to team collaboration webinar. And now I'm going to publish this to GitHub. So I'm going to call it team Luke in honor of Luke. And we'll say create repository. So this is creating a repo on GitHub. I'm going to go ahead and publish this guy. Now this is just awesome. So let's let this go off to GitHub. It says, hey, it's published. All right, let's go check it out. Boom. There is my application. Here's my source. Here's my app. Here's my service that I mentioned earlier. You can see that my service is actually going off to the cloud to get data at this URL. So whoops, let's paste that in. And there's my financial data that's coming from the cloud. So all this is like for real. So let's go back to Team Luke. Let's go to code, copy this guy. I'm going to go to VS Code. I'm going to close this folder. I'm going to do a Command-Shift-P, and I'm going to do a git clone. I'm going to paste in this repo name, Team Luke, and we're going to put it in my dev folder here and select the repo location. So let's just open this guy up. And there we go. Now I'm in VS Code, new terminal. Let's do an npm install. And that's going to go off to npm, install all of our dependencies. As you know, if you've done any Angular development in your life, you're used to watching this thing just going dun, 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 dun. And then we'll do an npm start. So the whole point of this is that everything you design ends up being something that you can get code from. Our primary design goal from day one was production ready generated code and a beautiful, enjoyable, easy to use design surface. So while this is going, I'm actually going to kind of slide it over here because this is a little annoying. It takes a couple minutes. I'm going to go and show you a little bit of the design to code. I'm going to have to type in npm start. So I'll type in npm start, or I'll do ng serve -o, and this will just open. So in a minute, it'll just take over my screen. But anyway, next thing that I'm going to show you is how we tie in with the design system with Adobe XD, and not Sketch, because Sketch is Mac only, but it's the same concept. So if you go to our website, back to Infrastics.com, there's a couple ways I want to show you how to get what I'm going to show you right now. The first thing is go to Learn and Support Reference Applications, and then click, whoops. Oh, okay. This just popped up. Sorry about that. So anyway, here's the application that we just built in App Builder. Let's go ahead and click our links. Boom, it went off to the server. It got all of our data. It's just like amazing. Everything here works exactly like it does in the designer. All the routing, all the navigation, it's pixel perfect. And it has a ton of features in this little application, but I am going to close that out. I think everyone on the call is probably like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And I would agree with you. But let's go back to our browser. Whoops. And did I just close that? Yeah, I just closed it. Sorry about that. Let's go back to Infrastics. I'm going to go back to Learn and Support. I'm going to go to Reference Applications, and I want you to click Indigo.Design right here. So here we have a bunch of different samples, but one of the samples that I'm going to show you right now is this People app. What you can do is click on these and you can download the Adobe XD files, the Angular app, or the Sketch file. So I've already downloaded this particular sample. I'm going to go to Adobe XD, and it's just opened up in Adobe XD. Now in Adobe XD, there's a couple things here. And it's a little bit smoother, I think, in Sketch. If you're a Sketch user, if you're an XD user, then you kind of know the deal here. But I've subscribed to this design system. And the way that I did that was in Indigo.Design, you just say get XD assets, and it'll allow you to follow the UI kits. And then there's also a plugin to install, and that's right on the screen. And I'll show you that in a minute. But what you'll notice here is if I'm here inside of the application, is these are all parts of the design system. So if I go to document assets and you'll see Indigo.Design, it's actually showing me here the whole design system. and then I'm dragging and dropping these elements onto my screen to create my UX. So for example, if I want to add a chart from our design system, I can drag it onto the screen and there's my chart. And of course, that's a little bit big, but the idea is it's just like a designer's using this like a developer would use a toolbox in Windows Forms. It's the same thing. Now, what we've done is we've enhanced this with additional metadata and a few other things. But the beautiful thing that we've done is we've allowed you with our plugin to create an application in the app builder based on this design. So I'm going to click create new app. First thing we ask you is what workspace do you want? Well, the first thing we ask you is to log in. I've already logged in, but this is like, hey, what workspace do you want to publish this to? I'm going to just push it to my projects, and I'm going to call this People App Demo, and I'm just going to click create app. So what that does is it takes the design, shoves it up to the cloud, and generates or parses it and generates a common application model for it that now is going to live in the app builder. So now when I click over to the app builder, here I am with the exact same application that we were just looking at in the design tool. So the idea is if you have designers and you're working on a product team that has UX folks, visual designers, developers, they can stay in their tool. They can use Sketch, Adobe XD, soon to be Figma. They can design everything, do their user testing. And when they're ready, they can say, hey, we published the app to this workspace and app builder. You as the developer says, okay, great. I'm going to go and publish this to GitHub. Or in this case, things like Adobe XD, for example, they don't have data binding, but App Builder does. So as a developer, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and delete these items, and I'm going to do my data binding. So I'm clicking this guy. I'm going to say bind him to data, and I want to use the employees table, for example. And in the employees table, I'm going to click this little guy here. I'm going to connect to the last name. And then I can go in here, select the image, and I want to data bind this image to the avatar URL. So boom, just like that, I am in an application that was just designed, and I have all of the metadata that I can modify, do my data binding. And now when I preview this, it is now data bound code. So you'll see here, my IG list is an NG4 now for items of Northwind employees, blah, blah, blah. And I don't have to worry about it. So now when I generate this code, all of the real data is in there. So that's how easy it is to actually go from design to code. But if you don't have that and you're a developer, you're just using the toolbox. You're dragging and dropping, you're creating screens, you're adding data, and you're just kind of having, fun with the whole experience. So I'm going to go ahead and add another page here, and I'm going to call this Swagger. Now I got to go here to here, and I got to type in Northwind Cloud Azure websites. This is going to take a second to get revved up because it's on my free Azure tier, but I want to show you this in this webinar because it's really important that you understand how this whole thing works. So this is a web API, essentially. I'll try it out. This is running SQL Azure. It's running a web API in the cloud, and it's returning data through a web API. This is all done in Visual Studio. So here, if I look at my C# project that I did, super simple. I used Entity Framework. I used EF Power Tools, and then essentially it generated all of the code for the models. And then all I do is just expose whatever I want as an API. This is all I have to do. And then you deploy it to Azure. It's super simple. So what I want to do is actually use this Swagger URL in my application. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my app. I'm going to add a new data source. Oh, whoops, got to go to the data tab. I'm going to add a new data source, REST API, Swagger, add a URL. There's my URL. So that's saying, hey, here's the definition of everything in the cloud. And if we look at that definition, this is what it looks like. So it's basically a JSON file of what's available to me in terms of an API. So now Northwind Cloud App, great. Configure endpoints. All right, check this out. I am going to select list of products. I'm going to select customers. I'm going to select products list. And what this is doing is it's giving me a preview of the response content, showing me the response headers. Any authorization parameter headers are going to show up here. But when I go here to select the data, I can say, yeah, give me all these fields, give me all these customer fields, give me all these product list fields, and I'm going to click done. So now I've got a data source. I'm going to do Control E again. Let's do our grid. And what I want to do with this grid is a little bit different. So we're going to do 100% here and 100% here. The grid has these features. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a bunch of features to the grid. Row actions, grouping, hiding, moving, pinning, summaries, etc. And what I want to do as well, let's go to the theme. Let's make it a dark theme like so. And let's go and tell it to use this data. So I'm going to use the customer's data. So just like that, I've got a full featured grid with real data in the cloud coming from an Azure SQL database. When I click preview on this guy, here's the data. And then look what I got. Let's do a grouping based on country. Here's my Outlook group by. Let's pin this column to the left like so. And actually let's pin city to the left. We can do a sort by region. Company name. I don't want every company. Let's just do a few companies and you can see how this works. It is so cool. And everything here, when I click generate code, it's just going to work. Why don't we export this to Excel? So boom, just like that, it exported to Excel. And if I put this back over here, you can see that it is not just a CSV file. It's actually a hierarchical export to Excel with the same hierarchies that are in the grid that we just designed. So that is a water hose, fire hose demonstration of Indigo.Design, of all the great things with it. Again, just go to the Infrastics homepage, go to design and development, click App Builder, and you're off to the races. So let's go ahead and get back and finish this up. So get App Builder today. I've got a couple links in here. When you get the deck tomorrow as well, whoops, you'll be able to click on these links. For some reason, I can't right now. But we've got a really good playlist up on YouTube of how-tos and overviews and whatnot. The idea, start getting 80% of your dev time back. You really need to use tools like this when you're doing modern web development. It saves you a ton of time. And it looks like I'll pop this guy up just so you have Luke's information and my information. It looks like we didn't have any questions, but we do have a poll. So I'm going to launch the poll. And if you guys, it'll pop up in a second. If you guys could answer the questions in that poll, they'll help us with the future of the product design, of our backlog, our roadmap, and kind of let you know what we're doing here. So there's 9 questions. It should only take a second. I'll wait till we get a few answers in here. The polls take a second to respond. So if you see it on your screen, please start answering the questions. And if you have any questions, dump them in the chat or the Q&A. All right, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll wrap it up. And as usual, I want to thank everyone for spending this time with us this morning. Hopefully you can join us for future webinars. We're just going to talk a lot about the value of the products. It's mostly demo. I'm not a big slides guy. Even though the slides look really good, we will only do just what's necessary. Today, we did a few more slides because it's sort of like an intro webinar. But, I just want to really thank you. I know your time is valuable. And I know there's everyone's super busy lately. And just real quick, some of the answers here. It looks like videos and how-to blogs are the way to go. Visual Studio is the way to go. Oh, lots of Adobe XD and lots of none. So that's good to know. Really good to know, because we just shipped the Adobe XD support maybe 3 months ago. Got a lot of WinForms folks. Blazor interest is always really high. And yeah, starting my desktop journey, starting to learn, doing digital, getting help. Like, this is very common. We see this globally everywhere we do these presentations. So thank you for all of your answers. They're really good. What happens if you need to change the UI after you add the code behind? So what you need to do is, if you're using a GitHub, we only support GitHub today. We are going to support other repositories in the future, but you would need to rebase your Git repo, and then you could do another pull request. Or don't publish to your main branch, publish to design branch. And then from there, you can merge changes in selectively, but rebase will resolve that issue. And the round tripping stuff is really complex. It's really hard when you're working with 20 people on a team. This is something we are always trying to improve as well. Yeah, that would work for you. And you can do that with Git commands, or like Git Kraken or other tools. Do it visually, much easier. All right, thank you for that question, Mike. And Sen, how does JWT tokens with REST APIs work? So we do authorization headers, JWT tokens. Actually, I don't know the answer to that, if they're even supported, other than the user would have to log in again, or you would have to maybe update the generated code. Mike, let me get back to you on that, because I'm just learning about these JWT tokens for this project that we're working on with that. I didn't really talk about XL2JSON, but we're allowing logins to it now. So I'm not an expert at it. So let me get back to you on that, and I'll copy this and make sure that we send you an email. Okay, cool. Well, I think that'll wrap it up. Everyone's excited probably to get to lunch, maybe. I think it's lunchtime there. Here it's going on 9 p.m. pretty soon. But again, thank you, everyone. I hope to see you next time. And we hope that App Builder really does bring you some value in the future. So have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you soon.